Thank you, I'm in.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sue, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah.
At least I can.
Okay, we'll give it about another minute or so. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. So let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the special meeting that the PPCC is honored to be having in conjunction with Councilwoman Traci Park's office. We're having a special conversation today for residents whose homes have survived the devastating fire. We'd like to thank profusely Councilwoman Park for extraordinary nonstop 24-hour-a-day efforts on our behalf during this tremendously difficult time. And thank her so much for bringing together such an extensive panel of experts, all working on recovery. We're excited to have all of you. We'll get to the questions which have been submitted into the Q&A as soon as possible. But right now, I'm going to kick this over to our esteemed Councilwoman, Traci Park.
Sue, thank you so much. And thank you to all of
Traci, I think you're on mute.
No, she was good. We heard you,
She isn't
Councilwoman.
on mute. We can hear her.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm back. Hopefully, Sue, you can hear
Still on
me
mute.
too.
Sue,
She's
I
not
think
on
that,
mute, Sue.
Sue, that might be your end. Because I can hear it clear on my end.
Okay, Sue, can you hear me now? All right, there she is. Good, 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 good. All right, guys. Thank you all for being here this evening. And as always, thank you to our friends and leaders on the Palisades Community Council for organizing this meeting with me and my team tonight. We wanted to convene a special session tonight and focus exclusively on Palisades residents that still have a home standing. We know that there are a lot of specific questions and unique challenges that you folks are facing, and a lot of answers that have been hard to come by, as you all have needed information that you can use to make decisions about your life. Where are you going to be living? Do you need a short-term rental, a long-term rental? When will it actually be safe? And when will there be enough amenities in the community for it and safe and healthy enough for it to be the right time for you and your family to come home? I know that getting that detailed information has at times been frustrating and challenging. I have said this before, I'll say it again. I have had that same experience alongside you. I have also, heard from folks that a lot of these meetings we've been doing, it's just all together, too many people talking up front. You all know where I am. You know what I am doing on the ground to help and support you. So I, for once, am going to be brief. I did want to let you know that we've assembled an incredible panel to be here tonight to answer your questions and to hopefully give you a little bit more information that you can use to make some planning decisions. So tonight we have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, the EPA, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Southern California Air Quality Management District, California Department of Insurance, County Public Health, SoCal Gas, Department of Water and Power, StreetsLA, LA Sanitation, our Bureau of Engineering, LAPD, LADWP, and the LA Housing Department. I know a number of you have shared concerns about using Will Rogers as a staging and storage site for the household hazardous materials. I wanted to let you know I share those concerns. I have communicated them directly to our partners at the federal, state, and county and local level. I wanted to let you know that we have secured a commitment from the EPA to host a webinar so that you guys can ask your questions, have your concerns addressed, and hopefully get some answers. That will be on Tuesday at 6 p.m. We will post the webinar details on my social media. It will also be in my newsletter, which comes out on Saturday mornings. If you haven't had a chance to sign up for that yet, you can do it at cd11.lacity.gov and fill out the pop-up form. You can also follow me on social media at Councilwoman Traci Park on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also wanted to let you guys know that we have secured a large number of air filters, and we want to make those available to those of you who need or want them. We're going to share a link in the chat. If you are interested in those, if you want air filters, just let us know, and I'm going to make arrangements for my team to come and personally drop those at your doorsteps for you. Also wanted just one final update, let you know that yesterday we held our first ad hoc recovery committee meeting. We had to do our first one at City Hall because we needed to find a location that could accommodate the entire production that goes into those meetings, that also had the parking and the ADA access that we needed. We are hopeful that our next meeting is going to be right here on the west side. It's an important opportunity for you all to have a platform to speak directly with me and my other city council colleagues, and have your voices heard as we are making important decisions about the recovery and the rebuilding. So with that, I am going to wrap up my comments so that we can dive into questions. But before I do, I want to give the floor for a few minutes to Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin. She has been an amazing partner to me, to all of you. She has been on the ground and working magic in Sacramento to make things happen for all of us as we work on this recovery and rebuilding. So Assemblymember Irwin, come on, take the floor.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. And as always, I want to say to so many of you, I am really sorry for your loss. For those of you that didn't lose homes, your community, and we are all working very hard to make sure that you can get into your homes as soon as possible. I know every day brings new challenges and new questions, and that there is an incredible amount of frustration. I was on the Zoom with the Palisades Council a couple of nights ago, and I think we had over 230 questions. So I'm very glad that Councilmember Park is looking specifically at your issues of people that do have homes standing, and I hope that you get all your questions answered. Again, please call my office if there is anything we can do to assist. And Councilmember Park and the Palisades Council, thank you for getting this meeting together.
All righty, guys. So I know that there are a lot of questions. There are a few very common questions that we have received repeatedly in my office. So Sue, unless you want to jump in here, I'm happy to kick it off with a series of questions.
I think we're going to have you kick it off.
Okay. All right. So why don't we do that? And, I just want to acknowledge for folks, a lot of ambiguity about how safe it is currently, when it's going to be safe to go back, what's the air quality like, when are the water and power issues going to be resolved. So with that, I wanted to ask, what safety measures and evaluations are currently underway to ensure that the area is safe for re-entry? This seems like something that maybe public health and AQMD could chime in on for us.
Everyone, Nicole Quick from LA County Department of Public Health. I certainly can speak to some of the things from public health that we are concerned about with folks going back in related to exposure to fire debris and so forth. And then I'm sure there's others there that may want to speak a bit more to some of the safety measures that go into place for phase 1 and phase 2 cleanup. But let me just give some general public health guidance. And then I do think Andrea maybe from South Coast might have something to say about air quality. So essentially, when structures burn, it's not just, plants and so forth that are burning, it's everything in homes that are burning. So of course that fire debris can have a lot of things in it that we want people to stay away from. Those can be heavy metals, asbestos, even some known carcinogens in there. So we're really urging folks going back to a home that may still be standing within in an area that's surrounded by, fire debris and properties that have been damaged, really important to kind of assess the situation from a safety standpoint. And that's looking at whether or not there's fire debris and ash and soot. We have a lot of guidance on our websites right now about precautions to take, but part of this is looking to see the amount of I'd say ash and soot and fire debris inside a home. If you're not visibly seeing that ash or soot, another way to add another level of checking that to see if that's actually there is a wipe test. So taking a white cloth or a paper towel and wiping that along places where we'd expect airflow to be coming in, windowsills and so forth, and then looking at it to see if there's the presence of ash or soot. Important measures to be taken while cleaning up, if any of this is present, includes appropriate personal protective equipment. So you think about it, we want to keep that ash and soot off of any body parts, out of your lungs. So that means wearing goggles, that means putting a mask on, long sleeves. You want to cover any body part that could be potentially getting exposed to that. Assessing whether or not home cleaning is going to be effective for that. If things are lightly covered in ash and soot, that may be something that individuals can do on their own with taking precautions. Heavier amount of fire debris, ash and soot would really necessitate getting evaluation by like an environmental health specialist or a firm that can help out with that cleaning. Once that cleaning's been done, the presence of ongoing smoke, so being able to smell, or if you're in your home and you're experiencing symptoms such as burning and irritation to the eyes, would be a hint that there's still some of that contamination there, and really urging folks to then bring in expert help in that cleaning process. Important to start with insurance company first. They may have contracted vendors that they would like you to work with. And also there's a whole host of things to think about in contracting with a cleaning or remediation company, including following and making sure someone is bonded and insured and so forth. So we've got a lot of that information on our website. I'm going to pause here and see if any of the other agencies on want to speak to some of the safety measures that have been put in place for phase 1 and phase 2 cleaning. If not, I can give a super high level overview. Okay, let me just go in just a tiny bit into the phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 involves removal of hazardous materials. So those may be things like pesticides, paints, batteries, things we all have in our homes that are really hazardous materials. So that's the phase 1 component of the cleanup. And then phase 2, of course, is the cleanup of the fire debris. And there are measures that are taken in that cleanup to ensure that the debris is properly wrapped. It is usually wet first, wrapped, put in the bed of a truck that's been lined. So there's measures that are taken as that debris is removed to limit the amount of potential of that fire debris spreading during that process.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. So I think that's a good segue to the next question, which is, there are clusters of homes that are still standing in parts of the Palisades. Overall, the Highlands are one of the areas that are in better tact than some other parts of the community. But there are smaller clusters of homes that have more directly impacted homes. There may be a few that are standing on a block, but they're surrounded by what is now rubble and debris. For folks that are interested in returning home, the entire area, you can smell the smoke in the air. We currently are in the middle of wet weather season. I just walked in the door from the Palisades a few minutes ago. There has been flooding issues and some debris slide issues, a lot of concerns about air quality. So can AQMD maybe chime in and tell us a little bit about what's being done to monitor for air quality and what the future of monitoring and testing may look like?
Yeah, certainly. And I could take that question. So first and foremost, my name is Andrea Polidori. I am the Assistant Deputy of Monitoring and Analysis at the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And in terms of air monitoring activities, at the moment, we are in the process of conducting an air monitoring campaign, both in the areas that have been impacted by the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire. This monitoring campaign basically includes two different stages. One is mobile monitoring of air toxics, and the second stage it's stationary air monitoring. So for mobile monitoring of air toxics, we are using two different mobile platforms that are capable of measuring air toxic metals such as lead and arsenic, and volatile organic compounds such as benzene and other. So, the idea is to drive around the, repopulation and clean up areas and measure the concentration of these pollutants in real time. So at the moment, we have conducted one mobile monitoring campaign in the Altadena-Pasadena area, and we were planning to conduct a mobile monitoring campaign in the Palisades area, but then, as you know, just because of the weather condition and the rain, we couldn't, right? So the first mobile monitoring campaign in the Palisades area is planned for next week, but again, pending, weather conditions, because, as you know, if it rains, air quality tends to be a lot cleaner, and therefore our measurements, will not be representative. But, in the end, the plan is to conduct two mobile monitoring campaigns in the area affected by the Eaton fire, and two mobile monitoring campaigns in the Palisades area. So we will try to include this mobile monitoring in a period of about 4 weeks. And, this will help us basically determine the location of 2 to 3 fixed air monitoring stations in both areas, right? So once we have the mobile monitoring results for the Palisades area in this case, then we will be able to determine the location of 2 specific stationary air monitoring sites that will measure the concentration of different pollutants, including particulate matter, lead, arsenic, and other air toxic metals, and asbestos. So, we are in the process already of trying to find ideal location for these fixed air monitoring sites. And, like if you have the opportunity to go on our website, there is a specific 2025 wildfire response webpage that includes all of this information and other information related to air quality. I also would like to clarify and specify that this particular monitoring initiative has been requested by the US EPA and is being conducted in close collaboration with the California Air Resource Board, with CARB.
So real quick follow-up question. If I think I heard you right, you have one stationary testing area, or you're looking for a place to install one stationary testing site. Is one enough given the size of the burn area? And I wonder if the air quality at higher elevations may be different than it is down in the middle of the alphabet streets, may be different than it is lower down to the coast in PCH. Is that a concern? And how do you test at a little bit more localized level?
Yeah, so maybe I sorry for the confusion. So we are looking for potentially 2 to 3 sites for stationary monitoring. So,
Okay.
to address some of the concerns that you already mentioned.
Okay. And do we have any current testing that can give us any information about current safety levels and air quality?
As I mentioned, the first mobile monitoring campaign is planned for next week. We could go out as early as Monday or Wednesday, but it's all dependent on the weather conditions. It's supposed to rain on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm not really sure about this weekend, but we are monitoring literally the situation and try to make a decision as soon as possible.
So it might be at least another month until you have an initial batch of test results available.
No, I don't think so. Just to give you an idea, the first mobile monitoring campaign was conducted, in Altadena, Pasadena on January 31st. And I think, within a week, we were able to post, the finalized results online. So I think it might take about a week from the time of the measurements.
Okay. Okay, so a little bit more time for some real data on air testing, and we need the weather to cooperate a little bit to get
Correct.
us further down the road with that. That makes sense. I mentioned this and I asked the question about the air quality. I worry about the mud and the debris flows. We know that while DWP has done a great job re-energizing many existing customers, not everybody has power back on. We know we're a few weeks, maybe a little longer out until water is deemed safe and fully restored. Air quality remains generally an unknown, but many people are getting pressure from their insurance companies to return to their homes. And so I'm wondering, County Public Health, AQMD, Department of Insurance, maybe you can chime in here too. Is there anything that we can do to issue a statement or capture these concerns so that we can have our insurance companies provide some additional time for folks that remain displaced?
So, I mean, yeah, there's certain rules that these insurance companies must follow in the event of a disaster, in the event of smoke damage, in the event of uninhabitability. But as far as us, we can't really control kind of what is being paid out unless they're not following those regulations that we've been set forth by the California Department of Insurance. And, you know, I've seen like we've getting a lot of questions about the FAIR Plan being unresponsive and not paying out certain benefits that a lot of residents feels they should be being paid out. And, you know, one thing to keep in mind is with us, we're not the California FAIR Plan. The FAIR Plan is run by a pool of the insurance companies that operate within the state of California. We do regulate them, but we don't write those policies. So it's really hard for us to say what's going to be covered and what's not and what they should be paying out. But yeah, there are certain rules that insurance companies need to be following based on the extent of the damage and uninhabitability of your home. And I know I mentioned this a lot to a lot of the questions in the chat, but definitely give us a call at our 800 number. Again, this will allow us to contact your insurance companies on your behalf so that we can help you out and determine, you know, what exactly should be being paid out to you.
So, by the way, residents, if you have insurance or you're on the FAIR Plan and you haven't already talked to the Department of Insurance, I highly, highly recommend that you do. They are your policyholder advocate. They are your watchdog. They can advise you on your policy coverage, how to interact with your adjuster and your insurance company. They are a great resource. I still am not sure I have the answer to this question that I want or that I'm looking for. What we're trying to do here, just given that this is a toxic wasteland on unstable hillsides in the middle of rain event, the EPA has not even barely begun. They're a week into clearing toxic household materials. We are about to turn into a mega construction zone. There's no street lights at night. We don't fully have water and power restored. To me, it seems obvious that it's not habitable. So what is the threshold and how do we get partnership from public health or other regulatory agencies to tell the insurance companies it's not habitable? What would it take to get, I mean, I'm getting this question from residents, so that's why I'm asking you guys for the answers. Public health, is there some kind of an order or direction or something that you might be able to help us with here?
Yeah, I understand. I want to start by saying, understand a lot of folks are super frustrated by this. And what I can offer from public health is that we provide guidance. So public health does not issue orders related to this. And the guidance that we have spoken about in many forums and continue to essentially offer is that if your home is near an area with significant fire debris or burned buildings, that it may be advisable to delay until all that fire debris has been removed and because those activities can stir up the ash and soot. I think that component speaks to the risk related to fire debris. Some of the other things you were speaking about lack of street lights and potential slope instability.
But we have houses at the bottom of hillsides that are already starting to have some serious debris and slippage issues. The houses at the bottom of the hill may be green tagged, structurally sound at this moment, but when you look up at the hillside, that tells a completely different story. So I'm just trying to figure out.
Yep.
Can you issue guidance that generally the area is not safe?
Yeah, I think our guidance is related to fire debris and us, staying and even posting signs in the area related to you're entering an area where there are sort of known hazards is what public health has done. And our guidance is that it may be advisable for some folks. Doesn't get at that individual insurance question. And we are probably not the best when talking about like slope stability and so forth. That may be like more along the lines of structural engineers and so forth. Don't know if there's anybody on this panel that wants to speak to that component or the water component of that. But we have issued guidance related to exposure to fire debris and that can pose a potential hazard.
So if we have a resident with a standing home who may presently be in a dispute with their insurance company over the duration of their temporary housing assistance due to ambiguities about whether or not the area is safe enough to be told you need to go back and live in your own house now, who should we refer that resident to? Who's the problem solver for that issue, or can offer some advice at least? Crickets. Seems like we maybe just don't really have an answer to this yet. So I hate to do this to folks. I know this is an important question for a lot of people. What I would recommend is take a look at your insurance policy, look at the language in it and see what your coverage is, and schedule a one-on-one sit-down meeting with one of the representatives from the Department of Insurance to maybe look at it, see what your coverage is, and then talk about the specific concerns. I am going to continue working with Assembly Member Irwin, and I have already personally spoken to Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara about this. Apparently, this is not an uncommon issue that occurs after a fire disaster. I am told that this is a usual dispute. So I think since we don't have a clear answer, and that's what folks want, Assembly Member Irwin, perhaps you and I could separately offline work on some strategies that we might be able to use to help get some clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had very good luck with the Department of Insurance. We're happy to connect anybody to them to make sure they get answers to this, because in my opinion, they should not be required. They shouldn't be assuming that homeowners are that it's safe to move back into their home at this point.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I have been on the ground in the Palisades every day for the last 31 days, and it's going to be really hard for folks who live in it. But that raises another question that I want to ask. There are people who want to go home. And there are some places in the Palisades, like the Highlands, where we have real clusters of homes. There's a lot of it's still intact. So this really is a question for Army Corps of Engineers. If there is an intact part of the Palisades, like the Highlands, that has some fire debris around it, is that a place that could be prioritized for debris removal to help enhance the safety so that a whole bunch of people who want to come home can?
Councilmember,
the folks in the Alphabet Streets and Marquez Knolls are going to have a little bit of a different calculus.
well, Councilmember, thank you for the question, and it's one that we get frequently here at the Army Corps of Engineers. The answer to your question is yes, they can get a higher. They would normally have a higher priority because they're fire damaged properties in close proximity to standing properties, and we want to create some buffer for those homes and those homeowners who have returned to their properties and would like to have some space around, from the fire damaged areas. Again, as you know, and we've talked, the keys to getting your property cleared, you have to opt in to the ROE, and then once we get the ROE and phase 1 is complete, then we will put you on the schedule and get that property cleared as quickly as possible, with providing priority to places like damaged structures that are near or destroyed structures that are near standing structures that have been reoccupied.
Okay. All right. Since I have your attention, Colonel Swenson, one of the things that we have already talked about, but I want to make sure everyone on this call is aware of it too. You, Army Corps of Engineers, will likely prioritize clusters of homes and lots for debris clearance. When you have a group of neighbors or an entire street or an entire block where everybody's participating in the opt-in Army Corps of Engineers program. Is that right?
Yes, so that's a great question again, council member. And I just want to add a little bit of clarity and maybe a finer point to it. So if you're a homeowner and you live on a street, and you're the only one who's put an ROE in and none of your neighbors have, that doesn't mean you're not going to get serviced by the Army Corps of Engineers. But what I'm saying is if all of your neighbors around you have opted in, when I get all of those rights of entry and you're taken into our program, I'm better able to send one crew or two crews out there, depending on how many properties are in that cluster, and then methodically move through the neighborhood and not have to drop off my equipment, pick it up, move it to a different neighborhood. It'll just stay in that neighborhood and we'll continue to work, lot by lot by lot till all those homes are done. So we get it done more efficiently and faster because I'm not moving equipment back and forth. But I don't want your constituents who maybe are trying to get all of their neighbors to sign up and their neighbors are saying, I'm not interested. I don't want them to feel like they've been left out. If I have to send one crew to do one home, we will certainly do it. But it's just more efficient if I have a whole cluster.
Part of the reason I ask is in a neighborhood like Marquez Knolls, where you see a lot of damage, but a few homes still standing. The person who owns the home that's still standing may or may not want to move back in until the fire debris has been cleared, at least around their home, or to give them some space away from it. They may not want to move home while the entire neighborhood's under construction. That is an individual choice that people are going to have to make. But for our residents that are trying to decide right now, do they sign a 6-month lease? Do they sign a 12-month lease? Do they continue living week to week in a hotel? And if they're in that situation where they have a home standing and they're...
Yeah,
what advice would you give them, Colonel? I guess is my question.
Well, I mean, I guess if I was worried about moving in and I had homes around me that my home was maybe had smoke damage, but was not eligible for the program and was re-inhabitable, I would say, and I really wanted to move out until the debris around me was gone, and I knew my neighbors had signed up. So these are a lot of ifs. I might consider a short-term lease and try to be anticipating to be back in my home within 6 months. But again, that's all based on your personal acceptance of risk in your neighborhood, whether you have emphysema or a child with special needs or some extenuating circumstance which might make you more risk adverse than maybe more of a risk taker. I will tell you from experience, I have friends that I've made from other fires who were in their 70s and they said, I'm going to live in my home. I'm not that worried about the risks that people are talking about. I've lived a great life and I want to be back on my property. I have other people that said I had extending health conditions and they were on the opposite side of the spectrum. They wanted to wait as long as possible. But I anticipate having the majority of homes complete, 6, 8, 9 months, with the ones that take me to the very end are the ones that are going to be complex or complicated. And it's normally because of ownership issues or, getting the right of entry. Those are the ones that are going to be at the end. We are ready to get this mission done. And we are ready to get your constituents, as well as all of the survivors that were impacted by this fire, back on a nice cleared lot with all of those public health and safety risks caused by the fire removed so that they can apply for a building permit and rebuild their future home.
Thank you for that, Colonel Swenson. So I think my advice that I would give to residents, if you're in a situation where you are in a neighborhood, your home is still standing, but you want more clarity about how long it's going to be until the lots around you are cleared, I would say stay in touch with your other neighbors who live in that street, encourage them and work with them and keep everybody. I mean, really, truly, my recommendation to everybody is sign up for the government program. If you want to opt out later, you can, but get in the queue now and help Colonel Swenson spot clusters of complete communities that are demonstrating an interest to get back in. And you, as a homeowner, if your house is still standing, can be a part of that by encouraging your neighbors to work together. And then you can use their timelines, hopefully, to make some decisions for yourself based on your own personal risk factors and preferences. So that would be my advice on that for now. Now, Colonel Swenson, since you mentioned smoke damage, this actually may be a question for Department of Insurance. And I know every policy is going to be a little bit different, which is why I encourage homeowners to make these one-on-one customized appointments. But typically, what types of remediation measures are the insurance companies required to do? Is it just coming in and doing a light dusting? Is it testing of some sort? How deep of a clean might you get out of it? What do you get with remediation? Typically, I know everybody's policy will be a little different, but generally, what are the kinds of things that you might get?
Councilmember, I think I'll pass on that question.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was
Yeah.
kind of had re-kicked that over to Department of Insurance.
Yep.
Sorry, Colonel.
No, sure. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure, to tell you the truth, off the top of my head, what type of remediation that they are required to do, but I can get back to you with an answer.
Okay. All right. If you could, please, because that's a really common question, is about what types of remediation is available and how do we push the insurance companies to really make sure that these things are safe. All right, I'm going to switch gears. Another common question that we're getting. There are a number of multifamily properties, apartment buildings, condos, townhouses in the Palisades that are still standing. Who is responsible for cleaning and remediating the individual units, the hallways, and the common areas? Is that property owner, the landlord? Do individual tenants do that? How does that work?
Good evening, everybody. It's Robert Gallardi, the Director of Code Enforcement for the Housing Department. We're
Thanks,
responsible for inspecting and following up on complaints for all multifamily rental properties in the city. To best answer your question, council member, is to remember that the department's position is this: for the cleaning and the decontamination inside the rental unit, it's going to be the residents or renters' responsibility. For the common area, hallways, exterior, and the grounds of the property, we're going to hold the property owner or landlord responsible to assist in the primary addressing those concerns. Granted, we need both the renters and the landlords to work together through this process, but that's the differentiation. Does that answer your question?
It does. So if I just to recap and make sure I got it right, mostly renters are going to be responsible for their units, interior, and landlords take care of the remainder common area properties.
Correct. And my point being that, you know, the renters and the landlords need to work together in those common areas to their best abilities. Meaning there's an expectation that the renters won't move debris out of their unit and then leave it for the owner to clean it up in the common areas. So everybody needs to work together. Correct.
Okay. And so for folks here who are renters whose buildings and units are still standing, if you have any specific issues or questions, you can reach out to me or my team, or issues with your landlord at your property, reach out to me and my team, and we'll see what we can do to help facilitate, to make sure that you're getting the help that you need from your landlords. I'm going to switch gears and ask another question. This one is for LA Sanitation. How are we doing with trash removal from our homes that are still standing? And is LASAN doing anything with or about, or do you have advice about putting burned stuff into regular trash cans or green bins?
Alex Helou for LA Sanitation. The questions we're getting from residents, council member, is my furniture smells like smoke and I need to get rid of it. What we are explaining, if it smells the smoke, your house was not part of being burned, you can just call sanitation 1-800-773-2489 and we can pick up the material. We encourage our residents to place it in a plastic wrap. You can buy those from, from like U-Haul stuff. You can wrap it, the couch, the bed, and just call us. We'll put it on the curb and we will pick it up on your collection day. There is
And
no
is that a
charge for that service. It's free of charge.
Alex, call you how? Is there a number that or
I'm
do
sorry,
people do through my
yes.
311?
1-800-773-2489. It's 24/7. We're open
Okay.
24/7. 1-800-773-2489.
Okay. There are some folks living in Palisades. There are some people who never left.
Right, and
So
we
what's the
resumed
status
service.
of trash collection? Are you guys doing regular weekly pickups or?
Collection has resumed every Tuesday. We
Okay.
pick up trash, recycling, and green waste. For those who are doing organics, we also pick up the green waste and recycle. If we have missed a home, please call us again at 1-800-773-2489. If the container wasn't out and our driver just drove by that property, just call us. We go back and pick it up. Again, it's 1-800-773-2489. We're open 24/7. I want to touch on something Nicole mentioned with public health. We also get comments for people who are outside the zone and they had some fly over ash. Again, using the protocol that Nicole has mentioned, we encourage our people just put the mask, the gloves, scoop some of that ash, you put it double bag, and you can place it in the black bin. We will take care of that for you. Just scoop it, double bag it, please. Put it in the black bin and we will take care of it.
So thank you, Alex. Burned trees, shrubs, potted plants. Do you want those going in the green bins?
If the home is impacted and they're under phase 2, we do not want them. Keep them at that one. If they're not part of phase 2, then we can place it in the black bin.
Okay, because there's on a lot of the standing homes, there's a lot of charred greenery, potted plants and shrubs and stuff like that. So if people are moving home and trimming their shrubs and brush, do you want that in the green bin if it's charred or not?
No, we would like it in the black bin.
Black
Or
bin,
if they don't
okay.
have, they can call us. We can do extra collection free of charge too. We're providing extra collection for the Pacific Palisades area and the neighboring communities who were impacted by fire. Again, we prefer to safety of our own employees and the residents. Please place them in bags, put them on the curb, and this way also protecting your neighbor and yourself.
Great, Alex, thank you. One more question for LASAN, and this relates to pools. Like I said, I've been all around the Palisades and I have seen what the pools look like. They're a disgusting, gross mess, all of them, full of water that is black and nasty looking. There are chunks of debris, burned wood and stuff that looks like charcoal now. And the rain over the last week, this week and the week before has just added on top of it. So we're getting a lot of questions about what to do with pools, and we were in a meeting last night with Barbara Romero, and it seems like, we've gotten some different advice, but I think where we left it last night with Barbara, unless you tell me different now, Alex, was that we're asking people to not drain pools into the sewer system. And part of the reason for that is that, this, guys, your sewers go to Hyperion, and that is for, that system is not intended to handle fire debris. And if all of that sediment and those chunks get into our sewer system, then we back up Hyperion, we have burst pipes, we have enough environmental catastrophes happening at this moment that the last thing I want to do is overload our sewer system, Alex. So I think we're waiting on some more clear guidance on what we want to do with pool water, but I'm going to kick it back to you and you can tell us all the latest. You're muted.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you described it properly, Councilmember Park. We are working with the consultant, trying to find a better solution that we can offer. And I'm hoping in the next week or so, we may have an option that we can then discuss. I think Colonel Wesson yesterday did a great job explaining what he does with the water, but I know these are for homes that have not been impacted. And
Right.
so we'll have to figure a better solution to give you.
And there's different states of different pools. There are some pools that folks may be able to just run filters and clear their water that are in less impacted areas, but there are some homes in more heavily impacted areas where the conditions are a lot different. So right now, guys, on the Zoom, residents, if you have a pool that has water and it's nasty and full of chunks, right now, please don't drain it into the sewer system. We are going to get back to you when we have a little bit more clarity around the protocols that we're going to use for handling the pool water at this point. Another quick pivot here to another water question. This is for DWP. Know you guys have been on the ground in force, and I want to take a quick second to acknowledge. I think it was around day 3 or 4 after the fire. Immediately, there were hundreds of DWP workers on the ground going house to house, shutting off gas and water lines. They have been restoring temporary infrastructure throughout the Palisades, all along PCH. The work you guys have done in the last 31 days is absolutely remarkable. So thank you on the power side. I know you're making really steady progress there. Water is slower, and in part, it is because of state-mandated testing requirements, and those testing has to be done every 72 hours. Why? Because they have to flush the lines and then see what may accumulate in the water when it's resting, and those tests are done every 72 hours. So what do we think the realistic timeline is for DWP to complete water testing and potentially get our existing homes that are still standing connected to safe water that they can actually live with? What do we think the answer to that is?
All right, good evening, everyone. Jonathan Leung here from Los Angeles DWP. So we were able to, in coordination with the state regulator, California Division of Drinking Water, develop a water wildfire response plan. That includes critical elements Traci touched on, the flushing and cleaning of pipes, as well as doing the testing through all service zones. And there are 9 service zones in the Pacific Palisades that we serve. The plan to be able to complete that flushing and testing would take a few weeks. So our calendar, our target, moving as many things in parallel and as aggressively as possible, is to have that component done by February 28th. However, as we get results, and if there are detections, then we have to address those detections. Thus far, we've collected 130 samples in 2 service zones, the 720, and I know most of you don't know this, but that's where all the water in the Palisades flows in. From there, it goes tributary up the hill to the pump tank zones, Highlands area, and it flows by gravity down south all the way down to the Santa Monica Canyon. But we have to proceed in a systematic manner where we're able to confirm and clarify that the upstream sources have no contaminants before we move downstream. Otherwise, what we run the risk, say we started down at the lower area by the Santa Monica Canyons and it's all clear as of today, but if there are contaminants detected upstream, those flow paths can still create doubt, in which case we would have given you a green light only to turn it back to red light a few days later as we got more results. So I hope you all understand the logic and how we're trying to progress. To get all the initial testing done will take about 4 weeks. I will say most of the results we've gotten out of the 130 have been clear, but we have had a few low-level detections. We're working with the state regulator how to address those. We're hoping those can be addressed at a very localized level that won't create extensive delays. But I think that's the best forecast that we can have for you at this juncture.
So the horizon is weeks, potentially into months, but you guys are making good progress. I know that. I know you've got 90 different testing locations. There is a lot of work underway. So I know it's a little bit of a longer horizon there. It's weeks, potentially stretching into months, maybe.
Right. And let me add one thing, that we will begin to add test results on our public website as we can. We wanted to share and get those validated and discuss those with the state regulator first. But I think it is important because there is some sequence and time impacts, and we really appreciate that you are having to make those short-term and temporary housing plans. So I think it's important for us to give you updates that if we see something significant that might add time to that process, we'll put it on the website and we'll definitely communicate it with the council office.
Fantastic. So that's a great pivot to my next question, which relates to where they can find transparent information about soil, air, and water testing. So Jonathan, the website that folks should go to look for water testing results is what?
I'll post that in the chat, but
Right.
so that people can get a link, but it is on the LADWP.com corporate website. And I will tip my hat off to the US EPA. I know they're using story maps from ArcGIS. It's a great tool to be able to combine visual information with dashboard information. We have our team working on something similar. Imitation is flattery, but we want to have that up and ready hopefully by next week for everyone. That should be a lot more informative of those 9 service zones, give people a clear understanding of exactly what steps are progressing in their zone and what those results are.
Great. So yes, the storyboard by the EPA is a great resource. EPA, is there someone here that can come on and tell residents a little bit more about what's there and what information they can get from you?
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. My name is Karl Banks. I'm the Deputy Incident Commander for EPA's efforts in Phase 1. Our story map, I put it in the chat. I'm not sure if it's been passed on to the general chat. Is up. It's been up for a few weeks now. It is where you can find out where we are at with Phase 1, and you can tell down to a particular property. You can go in and punch in your address, and you can find out where we're at with our first recon process and then the removal process, or if your home has been deferred to Phase 2. To explain, at times, heavy equipment is necessary to do Phase 1 work, and it would be unsafe for our crews to do that work. So Phase 1 gets rolled into Phase 2. It still happens, but it happens with Army Corps support to knock down unsafe structures or address other safety issues with the heavy equipment.
Okay, great. Soil testing. Is anyone doing that? And if so, where do we find results? Anyone? Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, anyone?
Councilmember, the soil testing is not included in our program.
Okay. So for folks who are participating in your program, Colonel, there's been some discussion about, scratching down some number of inches of soil. How do folks know whether to do that?
So the program that we administer under FEMA's authority in coordination with the state and county, we take 6 inches of soil under what we call the ash footprint. So if you think about as gravity and wind pulled your home down in the fire, that would be sort of the ash footprint, sort of the outside perimeter of where the ash fell, generally around the where the house originally stood. And so we remove 6 inches of soil from that line to the foundation. And then if you opt in to have your foundation removed, we will remove your foundation. We will not remove 6 inches of soil under your fence. If your fence burned, we don't, it's just that ash footprint area.
Okay, and you do that regardless of what soil testing may indicate. That's just your protocol, is that 6 inches in the ash footprint.
That's the 6 inches within the ash footprint. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Is there any place where folks can, so you're not testing Army Corps. Does anyone else know county public health?
Yeah, let me give an update on this.
testing?
So the county has convened one of many task force, and we have several of the regulatory agencies on here participating in this group to kind of pull together some of, I'd say, a lot of what's being done on soil, water, air into one place, which will be made public. It is not public yet. There are academic institutions that are doing soil testing I am not aware of any soil testing that's being done as part of the official cleanup process. But there are other entities doing this, and we are looking to make that all public so that everybody can see what's going on with those different elements of soil testing. I don't have the exact website that will be posted on, but the county, the LA Recovery County and the Department of Public Health webpage will definitely have this information in coming weeks on it. So I don't have a firm answer right now, but there is a lot of work right now going into a good single point of contact for folks to go to that will have air, water, and soil information on it. And we'll link to some of these other ones because these different agencies, you've heard some of what's going on in those different areas. So look for that. I am going to put in the chat both the county website and Public Health's website, just so folks have that.
Okay, sounds good. I feel like I have been taking way too much time asking questions. So I think I'm going to stop with the ones that I've been hearing most commonly, and let's open the floor. Sue, unless you want to.
Well, I think Jacob's going to be asking the questions.
All right, so Jacob is my senior advisor from CD11. By the way, I'm just looking at some faces on the screen. I'm not seeing chat. So Jacob, if you are seeing some questions that are common or some interesting ones that we think are useful for folks, let us know and let's see what we can do to get answers.
Where's
Hi,
Jacob?
Councilwoman. I can give you a couple right now that have came up on our end
This
as
is
well.
Juan Fregoso, our
Oh.
district director. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you, Councilwoman. There's a few different questions that have came up, and I apologize if something comes up again right now, but because I had to jump off for about 3 minutes. But one of the we've gotten a lot of questions regarding trees and what will the trees on the properties that haven't burned, how will those be assessed, and will the Army Corps of Engineers be removing dead trees from those properties if the homes are still standing?
That sounds like an Army Corps question.
Yeah, thank you for your question. We remove hazardous trees from eligible properties under the private property debris removal program. So first, you need to have a determination if your property is eligible. If you're unsure if your property is eligible, you can always complete an ROE and work with the county to determine eligibility. Eligibility requirements are ultimately set by FEMA.
Thank you so much, sir. And I guess that tails off of a few other questions we've gotten. Should I be filling out that right of entry permit or not? If my house didn't burn, opt in, opt out. I think you kind of answered it, but more specifically, what should residents do right now?
Yeah, so generally let me start again. So you have to have an eligible structure, an eligible property for us to be eligible for PPDR, private property debris removal. I would just advise someone, if you're uncertain if your property is eligible, you can always reach out to the county. You can always complete a right of entry, and on your right of entry, you can state the type of property that you have and the damage, and then the county will review those, and then there'll be an eligibility determination made. I would just encourage you, because there's a deadline for the right of entry program of 31st of March, to sort of make that decision or that inquiry sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Another one that's come
Sure.
up for DWP is if there's a timeline for the Palisades to have clean, potable water for them to drink, and any updates generally on how the testing is going, or any insight as to how the testing process is going.
Juan, we've already covered that one at length.
Sorry, Councilwoman. Thank you.
Oh, it's okay.
Another one that came up for SoCal Gas is their gas regulator burned and needs to be replaced. What's the best way to get that turned back on?
Yeah, Juan, I think I answered that one in the chat. All that customer has to do is call our customer contact number, 800-427-2200, and we'll come out and take care of that and restore his service.
Thank you so much. And in regards to deliveries, We have had some questions about mail in terms of is there a timeline for it to be resumed and where can it still be picked up, as well as private kind of delivery services like FedEx, UPS, and Amazon. Are they given access to deliver to homes if people are already moving back in?
I think that
That
might
is
be-
a good.
Sorry, Councilwoman, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, that's a great question. I think deliveries are, but there was two parts to the question, delivery drivers and who?
And mail, is that already
I
started?
do not know the answer to mail.
And I know we have some panelists from LAPD Incident Command who might be able to talk to the access part for deliveries.
Our LAPD team?
LAPD, anyone?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, there you are. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? It came in a little broken. I'm on my phone.
Can delivery trucks, Amazon,
UPS,
UPS, FedEx, can they get up to the Palisades to make deliveries?
No, only if they have a pass. We're still going by the restriction that only the homeowners and the construction workers or the insurance inspectors that come down and get a verified pass at our FEMA location on Pico are going to be allowed to. Now, if they can go there and make their case there at that location and they're given a pass, then they will be waved through, but not without a pass.
All right, so we've just identified a bureaucratic hurdle that we need to figure out how to work around. Let's figure out, and guys, by the way, bear with us. You know, we just recently have scaled up this pass access system. You may recall this day last week, there was widespread concern about reopening the Palisades to the public generally. And the National Guard and CHP have been generous enough to stay and continue to provide that access. And in exchange, we have tried to scale up the pass access system so that authorized people, those with a legitimate reason to be there, are able to get through with as little hassle as possible. It seems to me, Juan, that we should be able to figure out a solution for our delivery drivers. So you have my commitment to work on that and to see what we can do to get some access sped up there for those folks.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and everybody. Another kind of set of questions we're getting is from renters who are maybe having issues either communicating with their landlords or getting some responses as to some of that. Is there a department or what's the best way to get some assistance when dealing with landlords in some of those situations?
LAHD, what can you tell us?
Hey, Juan, that's Robert again. The best thing for the constituents to do is file a complaint by calling our hotline number. That's 866-557-7368. Let me say it one more time. The hotline number is 866-557-7368, and then we will follow up with any complaints regarding tenant landlord concerns. Or
Robert, when you say you follow up, does that mean someone who submits a complaint through this telephone number, are they speaking to a live human being? Does someone call them back? Is
Correct.
contact actually made?
So contact's definitely made, council member. Through the initial call, through the hotline, there's a live person on the line. And then if there's a follow-up necessary, an investigator or inspector will return their call.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And if, by the way, I'll just add to that, residents, if you have issues and you try with LAHD, you don't get a response, or you need some additional help, always feel free to reach out to me and my team. We can certainly try to facilitate as best as we can too.
Thank you, Council. Good. Thank you, Councilwoman. Some of the other things we're getting is essentially in terms of the clearing of ash and debris, but also just how, is there a website where either whether it's with the health department or somewhere where they can get just more kind of safety and treat guidance on how to treat clothing, hard surfaces, or appliances that may be contaminated with ash and debris on some of that, as well as I think it was brought up earlier as well, but a lot of landscaping, like if our yards are intact but they have ash and trees that may have burned, what's the best way to get some guidance on removing stuff from their home that they feel they might be able to remove themselves?
And can they hose it down with their hose? If there is water, is it safe enough to rinse your patio and water your outdoor plants with? Can you eat your fruit on your orange tree?
So the water quality should be safe enough for you to do the hosing outdoor activities. EPA's done studies, it wouldn't be of any impact to the plants, especially at these levels.
Okay, so
Washing
find
fruit
water
might be a different
plants
story.
with, but people can't shower in it or drink it, even if they
Well,
would.
again,
right?
warm showers are encouraged because at higher temperatures, you'll get more volatilization of potential volatile organic compounds. So we just encourage people to take a warm shower, not hot, shorter.
Okay.
And any guidance for washing clothes and shoes or anything like that? Anything special that anyone would need to do to decontaminate any of that?
Well, as far as washing the clothes and that's fine. It's just if you're doing a dry cycle, avoid steam because that could be a pathway to inhalation. And same with washing the dishes. Just not be near the steam cycle of the dishwasher. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you. Another question that's came up is some of those that are working with FEMA that got some TSA hotel benefits, those end on the 13th. Is there any more resources or what can they do to get more resources as that deadline looms? Is FEMA here?
Yeah. Guys, take it off mute. Ask the question again.
We can hear you. You're there.
What is the
FEMA and Helou, yes. Hi, guys.
Hi, team. As the FEMA, will FEMA extend any hotel benefits? A lot of them are ending on the 13th next week.
Yeah, so if survivors have additional sheltering needs under the transitional sheltering program, they're encouraged to stay in touch with FEMA, and they can call our 800-621-3362 to follow up with that and explain any extraneous circumstances that are requiring them to stay in that program.
Besides calling that number, can they drop by and have those conversations at the Disaster Recovery Center?
Yes, ma'am. They can also visit the Disaster Recovery Center, where they could be able to talk to a live human there. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. And if you all haven't had a chance to go over there, I highly, highly suggest that you do. There are a ton of resources. You may want to chat with the insurance commissioner is there, FEMA is there, city departments, planning, building and safety. A lot of the organizations that are on this call, they're all there in person too. Great one-stop shopping.
Jacob, are there any additional questions that you think we should be asking here? There's a lot coming in, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll switch out for you, Juan, if you want
Thank
to
you.
take over monitoring, and I'll take over asking. So we've seen a number of questions from folks about for DWP about burying utility lines as we move forward. Councilwoman, do you want to ask anything about that, or add a little finer point before we kick it over to DWP?
Let's hear it from DWP. We're going to bury the lines, right?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Mount, and I'm a deputy to the incident commander, Mr. John Vanacore for LADWP. Yeah, I want to thank you for having me participate in this community information opportunity. I want to express the department's recognition of the loss to the Palisades community. Right, I've been up here multiple days, and I've never seen anything like this before. Like you mentioned, Councilwoman Park. To the question, yes, the intent is the areas that can be undergrounded, right, will be undergrounded. There's going to be some areas due to their location, the terrain, right, underground obstacles that will not be able likely not be able to be done underground.
But we are going to make a push to do as much of it as we can. And we just had DWP at our ad hoc committee yesterday, and we heard from the general manager as well that they are taking this very seriously, and it is going to be an all hands on deck effort to do this for the Palisades community. So we appreciate that very, very, very much. And something else, I'm just going to mention it because there's some people on the Zoom that probably haven't heard this yet, but I'm actually kind of excited on your behalf for this. It's a new thing in California. It's called a climate resilience district. It is for communities that have been devastated by wildfire, and you all now in the Palisades are part of that unfortunate club. But here's what happens with it. Right now, most property taxes are being reassessed and going back to lower than usual numbers. Over time, as you rebuild and those property taxes go up and there are sales on the private market of homes in years to come, that value of your increased property taxes will be captured in your climate resilience district, and that money reserved for investment in your long-term infrastructure. So it's a brand new tool that we have available in California to help us with some of this. And so we're excited that we are moving forward with that for you in the Palisades.
And just to piggyback off of that, I see Sam added a question, and I know we've had this before too, but people are seeing DWP add new poles right now. I know there are temporary ones, but Kevin, you want to just elaborate on some of that in terms of why we might be seeing DWP installing new poles right now?
Sure. So the focus right now is to restore both water and power service to the community of the Palisades that have had that interrupted. So we have to install some temporary structures, poles, to accomplish that goal. As we just spoke about briefly, the intent is to underground the utilities in any location possible. So therefore, the poles that are being installed are temporary in nature, right? And also they may be in a new or differing location that aids us in restoring service to the ratepayers, right? To the community that are without right now, to give them a sense of normalcy, at least in respect to water and power service.
Kevin, thank you. We really appreciate that. And how quickly you guys have gotten those temporary poles up is remarkable. You lost so much of your infrastructure. This has been absolutely remarkable. Like I said, I was out there today. We went all the way up to Highlands, Palisades Drive, came back down to Mescal. We checked out Ravello. I must have seen 40 cherry pickers out along the PCH and deep into Palisades today working. It really, truly remarkable effort that you guys are putting in to get the power and water restored. We can't do anything without power. We can't do anything without telecoms. And those are some essential basics that we have to get in place so that we can move your recovery and rebuilding process. So it's not forever. It's just temporary right now to get you all operational while you're in there doing the work that we need to get done.
Well, thanks for that recognition. I'll express the department's commitment to work steadfastly towards restoring that service in a responsible manner with any and all resources, efforts, and personnel that we have at our disposal, right? Janice and Dave, Ms. Quiones and Mr. Hansen spoke yesterday, as you mentioned, and I believe they were quite clear in their commitment, and you've been very clear in your direction to us, your requests of expressing the community's interest and desire. And I, myself, right, will pledge that we will work tirelessly. We're not going anywhere, right? I may not live in this community, right, but I've spent a lot of time in it, both enjoying the beaches, right, but also working in my over 32 years of service at the department, right? So we're here, right? We're doing everything. We're going to
These
continue to.
Palisades residents aren't going anywhere either. They are coming home. It's going to be a long road, but we are going to get them home. So thank you. Couldn't do it without your help and partnership. Jacob, what else you got?
Yeah, I have a few questions for Army Corps of Engineers. And so Colonel will bring you back on. The first is the no-cost debris removal also for people who may have debris on property, such as burned bushes, shrubs, fences, referring to debris that's not at risk of falling, but it might still need to be removed? And I think this is, I guess, both for homes that have been damaged and might qualify, as well as those that haven't.
Yeah, it's a great question. I did answer that in the chat, or the question and answer as well, but I'll just give it to the group. So first thing is, private property debris removal is for eligible properties. So you need an eligibility determination first. Clearly, some homes, the eligibility determination is pretty easy by looking at the property. If the damage to shrubs and bushes and fences is the only damage to the property, maybe with smoke damage to the home, but the home is otherwise re-inhabitable, or the structures are otherwise re-inhabitable, then those are not normally eligible. I will say the Corps of Engineers does not make eligibility determinations. That is made by the county in coordination with FEMA. But generally, if it's just shrubs or a fence, it's not. Now, if you have an eligible property, say your house was completely destroyed by the fire, and you have a wooden fence, and you have shrubs along the fence line, those are generally not included, right? That's outside of the ash footprint, which I referred to earlier. We may pick up, a crew might pick up some fence pieces that are out there, but it's technically not an eligible piece of debris if it's on the fence. It's really what's in the ash footprint. Now, if your property is sprawling and it goes sort of property line to property line, well, then yes, the ash footprint is essentially your whole property, and we will take any of those fire damage shrubs. We definitely will take any hazard trees. So a hazard tree is a designation that is made by a certified arborist who determines whether the tree will live 5 years or more. If they believe it won't live 5 years or more, then we'll make a determination whether that tree should be removed, so it doesn't present a hazard to either our crews or a resident who returns to the property. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, and then have another two for you. So the next one will be if folks repopulate to their homes that are during phase 2 still, and a nearby property either was a phase 1 deferred, or during phase 2 there's a discovery of additional hazardous materials. Is there any concerns for those that are repopulating into their homes during this? Will there be communication made to those residents to ensure their safety? And are there any potentials for folks having to leave again if they are repopulating due to the phase 2 work?
Yeah, so I can't really answer a lot of those questions. The notification question, we certainly notify homeowners who are eligible for PPDR, who have submitted their right of entry. We will notify them 3 to 5 days in advance of when we believe we will get to their house, and then we will notify them the day before, so that if they desire to show up to observe and talk to the crew ahead of time, we encourage them to do that. But it's certainly not mandatory. In terms of a person's individual tolerance for risk and risk acceptance as it relates to other concerns due to private property debris removal that are going on in the neighborhood, I would certainly defer that to public health agencies and maybe the county or the city to help make a determination, or help that person make a decision on whether they feel that it is right for them to move back.
Thanks, Colonel. And I see we're running a little short on time, so just one last one for you before I want to get to some other topics that we're seeing here. A lot of folks have questions about the truck routes for phase 2. Is there any indication of how they're determined, how it's coordinated?
Yeah, so great question. We're actually in the thick of it right now, trying to work through all of our truck routes. Obviously we're in a public health emergency under a governor's proclamation, and we have to get this fire ash debris and for the EPA, the household hazardous materials collected off these properties from an unsecure, uncontained environment to a contained and secure environment, such as a landfill or recycling center. So that is of paramount importance to this operation, and really underpins the whole reason that the federal family under FEMA's leadership is here supporting the state and the county and the city in this effort. So there's going to be impacts to the community based on our use of public roads to get fire ash and debris to landfills. But we are working with the county DPW and the cities, trying to understand, what are the best routes to get there? What are the fastest and safest routes? It is our desire to get off of local roads, onto county roads, onto state roads, and onto interstates as quickly as possible, so we can get out of the impacted area and use the roads that are designed primarily to take, large trucks. But I acknowledge there will be some impacts. There's also about 17 different landfills and recycling centers in the greater LA County area that we're looking at for using. And really what we're trying to do is a shortest path problem. So we're going to look at the impacted home. We're going to look at the nearest location for that debris stream, whether that is green waste, whether that is fire ash and debris, whether that is asbestos, whether that is concrete, whether that is recyclable metal, titled property like a car. We want to find the fastest route to get that item from an uncontrolled environment to a controlled environment, so that we can get this job done and this community can get back. I do ask in advance for everyone's patience as we work through this. We are bringing some of the most professional crews around to work on this problem. And we want to get this done as quickly as possible so that you can have your lives back and you can rebuild your lives and livelihoods back on your property that is cleared of all of those hazards, and you can relive your life here in this beautiful part of Southern California.
Thank you, Colonel. I'm going to move over to LA Sanitation for a question, kind of dual set of questions. Seeing a lot of folks asking about trash pickup within the Palisades and when that will resume, as well as if there will be any assistance when it comes to removing any of the waste that was been left in refrigerators for a long period of time. People are very concerned about the health hazards that come with it, both from the food itself as well as any pests that might have been attracted to it while the refrigerators have been without power.
So, Jacob, we got a pretty long answer from DWP that trash service has resumed. There's also ways to request special and extra pickup, but let's have them chime back in at least on the food from the refrigerator question.
And that was sanitation, Councilwoman. You said DWP.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant LASAN. My apologies.
Yeah, quickly, they can call 1-800-773-2489 if we missed their collection. We resumed recycling, trash, and green waste collection. So that's back in full. Just call us. On the food waste, you can place it in the green bin. Those will be composted. Just put them in the green bin.
And can you say that number one more time for everyone?
Yes, I'm sorry. 1-800-773-2489. It's 24/7. 1-800-773-2489.
Perfect. I put that in the chat for everyone as well. And then seeing a couple of folks, I'm going to go over to Bureau of Engineering now. A couple of folks expressing concern about the hillsides with mud flow, debris flow, and just in general, when we're introducing water to this environment, how we are mitigating those risks. So if could have someone from Bureau of Engineering, Arsen, I don't know if you're still on, to be able to speak to what the city is doing for that.
And while BOE is coming on, I will tell you guys, I just have been for the last 2 weeks on the ground watching the efforts that they have undertaken to shore the community up to deal with this water is pretty remarkable.
Maybe if I'll take this answer instead of Arsen. I'm Alfred from the Bureau of Engineering. So yeah, as the Councilwoman said, we have been out there for the last couple of weeks assessing all the areas in the Palisades area, all the burn areas. We've identified where we think K-rail and sandbags are needed, and we formed a joint operation with our other bureaus in the Department of Public Works, and the Bureau of Street Services and their contractor has been placing the K-rail and sandbags that we've requested. So I think to date we've placed like 7,000 feet of K-rail and about 6,000 sandbags. Actually, it's probably gone up. I think in the last day I heard there were more sandbags ordered for the community to use in place. So we've been checking on that, and things have looked pretty good. I think things have held so far with this rain event. So we're going to continue to do that now. With this rainstorm passing over the next couple of days, we'll keep checking and seeing if we need to make any modifications or identify areas that need to have debris cleaned up, which I believe Street Services is already working on a couple of the streets in the community as well.
They are, and I really appreciate the discussion about the watershed hazard mitigation efforts, because we all know that the west side is the repository of the watershed for the entire region. All of that garbage and trash and pollution and debris moves through our water systems, our creeks, and out to the ocean. It causes a lot of harm already to our beaches and our environment. Guys, the hard reality here is we have a burn scar twice the size of Manhattan. Wet weather is not going to be good for our beach and for our ocean. You are already seeing with your own eyes the charred, dirty stuff that is up on the sand, and you see the quality of the ocean water. And that's just because of natural runoff. But I think everybody just needs to understand that we have a very, very serious environmental problem on our hands. And I really appreciate all the efforts that you guys are putting into place. I noticed just over the last week how much plastic sheeting has gone up on the hillsides. There's a lot of what are those things called that absorb the chemicals in rocks?
The wattles? The wattles?
Is that what the word is? But those are there to try to help absorb a lot of the chemicals. By the way, the county and their public works have been very, very involved as well with our Bureau of Engineering, working on the catch basins. Our LASAN has been out clearing storm drains and gutters, trying to do everything that we can to mitigate the impacts of this. But, you know, you all live in the Palisades, you know what happens when it rains, you know where the water flows. You see this every time anyway, and now we have a compounding set of circumstances on top of it. So there are already impacts, and we're just barely getting into wet season.
And Alfred, could you speak a little bit about the extent at which the mitigation work you're doing, at how far you can go and how the city can go and for these measures versus what can private property owners do to mitigate risks on their private property?
Sure, yeah. So we're looking at, you know, our in the Department of Public Works, we're looking at also protecting the infrastructure in addition to all the things the council member was talking about. We don't want so much sediment to end up in our storm drain systems and clogging it up, which would then cause flooding, right? So that's one of our primary concerns as well. The county also is looking at debris flow. They every year, as part of the county flood control district responsibilities, they look at a lot of the debris flows and identify areas of risk. They prepare what they call phase maps. So sometimes when you see in significant rain events, if you've seen this in the news, they talk about a phase 1, a phase 2, or phase 3. That's usually something that's determined by the county. I think they also work with the U.S. Geological Survey in preparing some of that information. But they then take that info and they go and notify property owners. So those of you that are in your homes that are in areas of risk, the county has teams going out, identifying, you know, where there's risks and what they can do to try to protect their property from any of the risks that they see coming forward. So that's what's happening with the private properties.
Thank you so much. And as we are approaching
Jacob David Fukutomi from Cal OES has his hand up.
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you, Councilmember. I just wanted to add on to that. The city and the county agencies are doing an outstanding job with the immediate response and the short-term mitigation. I just wanted to let you know and the folks that as a result of this disaster, there's going to be mitigation funds available. We're already talking to the city and county agencies because it's a collaborative effort to do long-term projects because we know the threats and the flows have changed. So as we get into the recovery, we'll be working side by side to understand what the additional risks are, the changes, and the maps they talked about are an important piece of that, to see what makes sense in terms of funding priority projects for long-term risk reduction.
Thank you for that, David. And we haven't said much about Cal OES. You guys have been an incredible partner on the ground. These are the folks who trucked in all those thousands of feet of K-rail for us, and they are the ones really, really bending over backwards to make so many resources available on the ground for us. Thank you for that, David. You guys have been great.
Well, thank you. You know, as you know, Governor Newsom pulled out all the stops. It's been a team effort, and you guys have been incredible partners.
I will say across all layers of government, FEMA, EPA, even though I don't like that you're going to put hazardous waste at the beach, you all know where I stand on that. I appreciate everything that you're doing. None of us can do any of this without all of us working together. Jacob, I did see a comment somewhere in the chat about the air filters, people who are interested in having us drop one. I'm not sure that how to get that link or where to sign up for that. I'm not sure that came through to folks. Can you walk them through if they want air filters? How do we get those?
Yep. So there was a link in the chat. I'm going to put it one more time for
Let's
everyone.
do it one more time and make sure everybody sees it.
Yes. So it is now in the chat again. So if you all want to take a moment, if you're interested and haven't seen it already, go to the chat, click on the link, and just fill out our short form so that we can get that to you. Councilman, I know you did mention EPA, so I do want to, maybe if you want to use this moment to plug our next webinar Tuesday evening. We're going to have that opportunity if you want to plug
All right.
it in.
Well, I'll plug it. You know, obviously I am fiercely protective of you all as my neighbors and my friends and the people who elected me to be your advocate. But as the guardian of our city's coastal district, I also deeply, deeply care about our coastal environment, our ecosystems, and our wildlife. And in my opinion, doing this at the beach does not make sense. I would have much, much preferred to see this work occur in the burn zone where things are already contaminated, rather than bringing this all the way out of the community down to the beach and sorting it, staging it, and storing it in a place that has collateral impacts. Well, that's just my view on it. But here's the reality, guys. We can't do anything as a community to move forward, start rebuilding, undergrounding the infrastructure, restoring all of the lines. We can't do any of that until the EPA gets this hazardous mess up off the ground. And they can't do that without a place to do the work that they have to do. And so over my objections and opinions about this decision has been made. It's necessary work. They have committed that they intend to have phase 1 completed by early next month. And we think this is going to be a relatively short time duration on the beach. And so, you know, there are mitigation measures that they are going to put in place to protect the environment. And they have said that they will leave it better than they found it. So on, when is it, Jacob? Tuesday?
Tuesday evening, yeah.
At 6, they have agreed to do a community information session like this. And I want you to hear directly from them what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they arrived at this decision in this location. And I want you guys to have an opportunity to have your questions answered directly by them.
Absolutely. And I do want to just try to get one more question answered, because throughout this whole process, ordeal, I would say, one constant has been a concern about public safety, about looters, about, you know, and for folks that are trying to go home, that is going to be a big question for them as well. So I want to just ask if Captain Gabaldon from West LA Division would be able to speak to that concern, and you know what the current posture is of LAPD and what the plan is moving forward in the medium and long term to keep folks safe.
Yes, thank you, Jacob. So the plan right now stands as kind of the same as we've been operating. The National Guard will still be at the checkpoints. LAPD will be supporting the National Guard at these checkpoints because they don't have arrest powers in case they detain someone. Our CHP is up there doing our crime suppression, our force protection in the fire area. I'm sure if anyone that's been up there has seen them. They have a large contingency up there. They're patrolling with their lights on to deter any criminal activity. And that footprint's going to continue for some time until eventually it transitions over to LAPD. Now, when it transitioned over to LAPD, it's my anticipation that's going to be when the streets are open to everyone. I've got assurances from the Chief of Police and Operations West Bureau that we're going to have a large contingency to replace CHP in this fire area. So, you know, as of now, it's going to continue to be the checkpoints. It's going to be continue to be CHP. When it's deemed time for the National Guard to go home and CHP to leave, then LAPD will take it over, and we'll be running it out of West Bureau, but it'll be a joint Operations West Bureau and Department operations where we're going to have additional resources in there to provide protection from looters and those looking to take advantage of the citizens up there. So that's kind of the plan going forward. Now, when will the transition be to LAPD? I don't know. I had heard that it was going to be last Sunday, and then something happened and it changed. So now we're kind of in standby mode until we get those final orders. But as we are moving forward, LAPD at the checkpoints with the National Guard, CHP up there doing crime suppression and protection in the neighborhood.
And
Thank you, LAPD. And Jacob, I just want to dovetail on this because it's obviously something that I take very seriously. You know, there had been a lot of concern about the idea of generally reopening the Palisades to the public. I think you all know that I was very, very clear that I did not think that it was safe enough or that we were ready. And frankly, I know for a lot of people, especially folks who lost their homes, the thought of people rummaging and wandering through the remains of their lives and their memories was frankly too much to bear. I know for a lot of you with your homes still standing who have been without your security cameras and comm systems in place, there has been a lot of worry about this. So with the National Guard and law enforcement support, keeping the pass system open and the checkpoints there for people with legitimate reason and the significant law enforcement presence, we think that that serves as a pretty important deterrent. I have also personally met with the mayor and with Police Chief McDonald and with the district attorney. And we are all in agreement that we are not going to put up with thieving and burglaring and squatting. And I have been very, very clear about the squatters because you guys know this. On an average day in LA, it takes an act of Congress to get someone who is illegally trespassing on private property out. And so I was already working on the abatement process for that for other reasons, but we have commitments now from Department of Building and Safety too, that we are just not going to put up with that. We're going to be taking immediate action if something like that happens. But I am hopeful that with the heavy presence that we have there now, that's not going to be an issue.
And Captain Cabal, and just confirming, even with all that presence, if someone sees something concerning, they're still recommended to call 911, right?
Yes, please call 911. Actually, if the CHP does make an arrest, LAPD is going to come take that body from them. So they're just for any crimes in progress. But if you see something suspicious, maybe that doesn't quite rise to the level of a crime, just call 911. We'll dispatch our units up there to take care of the radio call, or we'll assign to CHP to help us out in that area. But yes, use the same communication systems we've been using.
Thank you. And we're a little over time, so I'll kick it over to Sue.
Well, I think we're going to wind it up. Councilwoman Park, thank you. I really have no idea how you're surviving day to day. No idea whatsoever. And you brought this terrific group together tonight. And I hope a lot of people had their questions answered. It's never going to be 100%, but I think they probably know how to reach you in your office. So we'll say good night and see you all again on Tuesday.
All right. We'll be back and do it again on Tuesday. Good weekend, everyone. If you need anything, reach out to me and my team. We're always happy to help. Assemblymember Irwin, thank you as always for being here. Look forward to working with you as we help resolve some of these outstanding insurance issues, especially. Good night, everyone.
Thanks. Night.
Good night.